The Olszynski Law Firm is an official sponsor of Top Bin 90, specializing in personal injury, criminal defense, DWI, family law, and workers' compensation. The Olszynski Law Firm provides professional, trusted legal services to clients facing a variety of challenges. With a team of experienced attorneys dedicated to protecting your rights, the Olszynski Law Firm is the legal support you can count on.
Hi, I'm Justin Olszynski, the founding partner of the Olszynski Law Firm. Me and my wife started this firm back in 2010 with the sole purpose of providing excellent service to our clients, giving our clients a personal touch because we had worked in bigger firms where we saw that not happening. We handle criminal defense matters, civil personal injury, wrongful death, workers' comp, and family law matters. We have a team of attorneys that care about the outcome of your case, and we will fight to make sure that you get the justice you deserve.
Hello and welcome to episode 57 of the Top Bin 90 podcast. We are live after a very disappointing Charlotte FC performance at the bank against a rotated Nashville. So we're going to be discussing that tonight. Open Cup is this week, so we'll be seeing for the first time ever a Charlotte derby in soccer, 5-6 years in the making, and we'll also preview NYCFC and also the big news, Wilfred Zaha, his wife, leaking what's gonna happen in the future. And so for that, we have two of the best MLS minds here to talk about it. My co-host, Mr. Brian Bam Media. How are you today?
I'm doing good, man. Just getting ready to move on after the loss to the most important competition that we're in right now, right? U.S. Open Cup. So here we go.
Locking in for that. Yeah. And we also have Mr. Caleb Adams, Mr. Rage Baiter himself. And you were going off this weekend, too. How are you?
I feel like I've been pretty chill. I've been really chill. I haven't been tweeting much, a lot less than usual, but I'm excited to talk about it, excited to be back on the show.
It's the restraint that speaks louder than the words.
When I'm not talking, that's a problem.
Hey, that's a good point. That's a good point. Awesome. Well, let's get into it. Charlotte FC with a defeat against Nashville at the bank, you know. Last week I said that, hey, we're going to win. You know, we're building the momentum. The team is slowly getting better. And, of course, when I say something, the polar opposite happens. It was so bad that Dean Smith made changes at the half. He even said, I got the tactics wrong. Brian, talk to us about this game.
Yeah, I mean, I was a little bit confused when he said he got the tactics wrong. I feel like the tactics were pretty similar to what he normally has kind of been. I mean, 4-4-2, mid-block, a lot of the things were kind of similar to what he does most weeks. But I guess Nashville finally were the team that exposed, but it's also not like this hasn't been exposed before at times. So I think the biggest thing for me was just that there was no response, especially in the attacking third. I think this was a big moment for Abada, and he did not take advantage of it at all. He had an opportunity to be the guy again.
It feels like we say that he's gotten so many opportunities, and these are the moments where, you know, like it becomes frustrating because we need our DPs to show up.
Yep.
You know, and so Caleb, your initial thoughts?
I like what you said, Brian, about changing the tactics up, and we can dive. I don't know if we're gonna dive into this later, so I want to go too deep into it. But the tactics, like you said, were the usual.
Yeah.
Like we're lobbing it up to Toklomati. We cannot play it all through the middle. A lot of issues in that first half tactically, and then it's cool that he recognized it.
Yeah.
I appreciated that. Recognized it. It's very clear we need to change. And then the second half tactics were just as mind-boggling. If anything, I'm more upset about the second half tactics than the first half tactics. Because at the first half, you're kind of seeing and learning what your opponent's doing. Nashville has rotated a lot of players. You don't know if it's going to be something different. BJ's got something different than the usual thing he does with Mukhtar and Serge, who didn't start this match. And I think it's important just how many players are rotated.
Yeah, I was just about to go into that. I mean, it's another missed opportunity by these guys. You know, against Inter Miami, it was like a whole bunch of academy kids. This Nashville side was better, but you would rather have Mukhtar and Serge and these guys and Espinoza on the bench than against you. at home, building momentum, and they couldn't take advantage of that. And I mean, that to me is also adds to the layer of disappointing. Sure, Charlotte FC was missing Wilfried Zaha, but you have more than enough if what you've mentioned about cohesion.
Yes.
I'll go ahead and start off with that again, talking about that, right? And you have enough. Like Dean's mentioned that this squad he feels is deeper than the squad he's had previously. So if that's true, then we should be able to see it in games like this, and we're not.
Yeah, or also when you see the subs that Charlotte have, and you're like bringing in Smalls. I mean, Goodwin has had a good run of form. But
Absolutely.
Like, when you have those guys as your subs, and then you see Nashville after being able to maintain a lead, bring in Mukhtar and then Surge, bringing in double-digit goals, and Surge is tied for the Golden Boot lead. So it's just, I think that there's a clear disparity still in what Nashville has depth-wise. I mean, because Eddie Tagseth is a starter for most teams, and even for Nashville, he's just been kind of rotated out of late during their CCC run and been starting in MLS. But it's just, they have at least, I would say, an entire like new starting lineup in their midfield that they can replace with the guys that have been starting in the CCC. And Charlotte just doesn't seem to have that right now.
Yeah, even some of the first one, I can't tell if there's actually a deflection. I mean, Kalina gets on it, but even the second one, there's clearly a deflection off of Tim Ream. And so my thing too with like when we're talking about the evolution of Charlotte FC, in year 2, we're seeing an evolution in Nashville. Play against Charlotte in the middle of a Conca Champions League tie against one of the biggest clubs in the Americas, right, in Club America, and they're coming to play against one of the toughest teams at home statistically in Charlotte FC. With a rotated squad, they know the identity, they know what they're playing, they pull out a win in between that. And this is year 2 for BJ. We're under year 3, and we're still questioning how to improve the tactics or see that second level of Charlotte FC. And it's still early in the season, but we need to see progression and we need to see evolution under this Dean Smith's team.
Yeah, and I think what's impressive, I think I'll talk a little bit about Nashville's progression here is, even though he brought out a rotated squad, they were able to play the exact same way. They were able to control the game, control the ball. And that's their second win with the rotated squad on the road. So this team has gone into 2 environments on the road and been able to pull out wins. Columbus was the first one, and then now Charlotte. And so those are 2 historically tough places to play on the road and being able to get results like that. And I just don't feel like Dean has found a way to implement a strategy where, like, whoever he throws out there, you can find the same results. Like, Zaha missing, and you can see a gap. He wasn't able to find a solution, even with that, where we don't miss the beat. And that's what I think Nashville has been able to figure out how to do. Whether Mukhtar is out there, whether Surge is out there, they can still find a way to get the job done.
Yeah, I think the biggest issue for me is I keep seeing this thrown around on Twitter saying, oh, but Nashville are a good team. They're a good team. We're year 3. Why are we not a good team?
Absolutely.
Oh, we not a good team? Is that what you're saying? Like, oh, Nashville's a good team.
That's what the standard's supposed to be.
Is that not what we are supposedly the level we're supposed to be at? Is that like... I think by year 3 of Dean Smith, a lot of us anticipated or had the expectations, and I'm sure the club has the expectations as well. And Dean and everyone inside the org of, hey, we're gonna be a top side. I mean, we've seen Zoran talk about being the Seattle Sounders. Recent Seattle Sounders are not that level that they used to be. For a long time, those Sounders were dominant. They find ways. They were able to control games. I think the biggest disappointment is, for me, again, it's just a stagnation. I'm not seeing anything different this season.
Yeah.
And keep in mind, like, yes, they had a nice little additions here and there, Nashville did, but this is still largely a lot of the same squad that looked terrible before BJ. I mean, looked terrible. And what's even more impressive is they came from an English coach with a defensive style and were able to flip a switch in identity. You saw, because I think BJ had like half a season or a few months. Is that the case, right? He had like half a season or so, or a few months when he initially came in. Started rough, but he was able to flip one preseason, was able to flip an entire identity of a club, of a team that had previously been literally had the same identity since their inception, and since 2015.
Won a trophy for the first time in the state, I think, at first professional.
Won a trophy, and we saw that switch, and we saw that identity and change within one preseason, and I'm like, dang, that's mad impressive. A lot of kudos to Nashville and what BJ's been doing over there. But I look at us and I'm like, man, we've been waiting on that kind of that switch.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, for me, it's not more of a switch. For me, the switch was where like it was chaotic under Latanzio and Miguel, right? And he stabilized.
When I say switch, it's like it's an evolution.
Yeah.
But like that switch to the next level.
Yes.
Like, when is that going to turn on?
That's where I'm looking at, where we're like, okay, well, you finished 5th, you finished 4th, right? There's progression, right, from where we were at before. But now, like we're mentioning, we have to see that next level of Charlotte FC. And that's what we're expecting under this Dean Smith side. And we're still not seeing it, you know. For me, I'm still giving him the benefit of the doubt, you know. But he's got to deliver something tangible this season, whether for me it's a deep run, right, in playoffs or a Open Cup or a CONCACAF Champions League, you know, qualification, something of that nature. And what's concerning for me right now is that 7 games in, like you mentioned, like we don't see an evolution, and we don't see players getting comfortable in an evolution. I mean, Wilfried Zaha said that in a presser a couple of weeks ago, where like he's like, we're trying to tweak things, and it feels like players aren't comfortable, and that's a concern coming from one of your players that's in it's one thing for us to say it, but it's one thing for one of your players to mention it as well. And so even having said all of that, right, 2-0 down, you know, Idan Toklomati wins a penalty, and I'm not sure what he was doing. Clearly he was trying to calm himself down, right, before taking that penalty, but you know, he struggled a little bit more this season, you know, and so part of it is on him, but part of it is also that he's not getting enough chances, right, in terms of in the box, in terms of actually getting an opportunity to score. But I think the way that penalty went, how he shot it, and then that second shot kind of describes the moment that Idan Toklomati is in.
Yeah, I feel like the 9 kit, I think, is definitely, it's weighing a little bit heavier, especially right now over these last couple games. And we were looking at this after the game during the presser, Jorge, when we were looking at just how many shots he's had 8 total shots through 7 games.
That's crazy.
Barely ever really connecting with any passes in and around the box. A lot of his passes are backwards, so he's not really connecting, which I feel like for him, he's a guy, that's playing
part of his
style
game, yeah.
is connecting with his teammates, getting touches on the ball. And I think right now he's averaging like around 25 touches or less per game. And so he's not getting on the ball. I would say what it looks like to me, like not enough compared to where he, like, and especially in areas where you need him to get on the ball, in and around the box, connecting with his teammates there. And I think that's a big part of what's missing. And he's not getting the shot volume either to really get any momentum going. And so everything has to come off of like a one shot, one chance, and you have to make it count. And if you're not getting volume, it's very hard to get into a rhythm.
For me, while Toklo individually has had a bit of struggle, I think it's more telling of the system as a whole, because a striker's stats is very reflective of the team behind them. Like, yes, there's certainly strikers out there that can make their own chances, beat people, but ultimately, as I've said many times, they're the most dependent position on the 10 players behind them, the most dependent of anybody on the team. And 8 shots for a striker. And keep in mind, Toklomati is not really Toklomati is a player that takes shots. Like, yes, he's not selfish. Like, he will make that right pass if he needs to make that pass. But Toklo will take shots if it comes up. He'll put in the shot. And to have 8, that for me is so telling of how poorly served he's been by the system, by the tactics, and the strikers that we've had at this club from the very inception, Swiderski to Ajimang, Toklo, Danny Rios, for you real ones, been here since day one. What they've done was in spite of the team. I can't say Ajimang, he didn't score those goals because the team behind him was just gifting him opportunities. Ajimang had to fight for every single goal he had. Toklo, the amount of how many goals have Toklo scored where he just wins the ball off of somebody and starts a counterattack, right? Just defensive work. The strikers who have succeeded here, done Toklo, Ajimang, every one of our strikers, they've done that in spite of the team behind them. And for me, again, it largely comes down to a much bigger issue than individual players.
Yeah, and I agree with you on that point, because we also saw him last year, like the qualities of this player. Like if and we talked about him having a surrounding really good cast this year, but they also have to provide them the volume. Like I've seen enough for him to confidently say he can score 15 to 20 goals in MLS, right? But part of it is that, and part of it too, I just think it's a momentum thing. Right now, he's not really in his best spot, and that was kind of reflected off of that penalty. And speaking of momentum, we're seeing the exact opposite with a guy like Archie Goodwin, who came into the game and is adding that explosiveness, right? And so even again, he won a penalty too. And I mean, that run he made for that penalty, I'm like that's why he's in there, to try to change the game, try to impact it, takes the ball and scores his opportunities. And when we're looking at the bench and Dean is telling us that it's a better bench, that's what I want to see. I want to see players like that coming in that are actually can influence and change the game. Talk to me about Archie, Caleb.
Yeah, I think he's been, so far as advertised, a really hard hustler, really instinctual in the box, someone that has good finishing. Didn't get too much of that last season just because the minutes he got were sort of trash minutes, unfortunately for him. Yeah. But he's had a full preseason with the team. He's gotten a little bit used to the league, had a few minutes under his belt. His goals were, again, a product of his own hustle and fight to just overcome what was in front of him, which is awesome. And, maybe the credit for Dean is he develops a culture of that hustle. I don't know. We've come out really soft in games, so I don't feel confident saying that because there's definitely a lot of games where we're like, hello, are we going to play? Are we going to start playing? Compared, especially like Nashville and those other teams you watch them play, just LAFC, just so much intent, everything they do. Yep. I think he's been a really nice addition off the bench, nice spark. I think the big debate right now is, do you sit Toklo for a little bit? Do you let him sort of gather his thoughts, come back? We've seen that work in the past for players.
You beat me to the question. I was going to ask you guys. Go ahead, touch a little bit on Archie.
I mean, I think he's bringing a lot of the fight and a lot of the stuff that Dean Smith really values in players. I think he also talks similar about Rodolf Aloko. I think that's when he talks about like pace and power and things like that. I think he just likes the direct style of play. And Archie is bringing that off the bench. And it doesn't require necessarily as good a service. If the ball is loose, he's finding a way to win those 50-50s with his play. So I feel like, I don't know if I'm ready to quite say Toklo needs to take a couple of games off yet, but it's definitely getting closer than it was.
Yeah.
Right. And I mean, I would like to see Archie get the start this Wednesday.
Well, he's got the opportunity this Wednesday.
Open Cup. There's a lot of opportunities for a lot of guys, and obviously we'll get more into that later. But I think let's just see. Let's see how the next couple weeks go. He's getting closer. I mean, but he's also only played the most minutes he's played in a game so far is 15, 20 minutes, really. So I don't know if it necessarily justifies a full run. So, he's right there, and the pressure's on with Toklo needing to step up. So it's just, I'm willing to ride with Toklo another week or two.
Caleb?
I'm cool with that as well. For me, I want to make it clear, Goodwin is not going to be our savior.
Yeah,
no,
absolutely.
You know what I'm saying? I'm not saying any of you are implying that, but like to anyone watching, like Goodwin's not going to be our savior.
No.
Because again, especially if you're talking about Toklo having trouble building up, getting touches, Goodwin's going to struggle even more in that aspect. Yeah. Believe it or not.
Yeah.
Toklo has got a really complete game. And even physically, Toklo is one of the best headers of the ball on the team. Like, he has great aerial ability. He has a presence. Still, people forget, he was a little overshadowed by Ajimang and his physical ability. Toklo has a lot of physical capabilities, too, and intensity, and a great presser of the ball. Goodwin won't be our savior, but it's always good. We've seen how competition breeds excellence in position battles. I think Ajimang and Toklo made each other better. Yep. There's a little less pressure. Toklo's not playing. He was playing with house money last year. Right? Yeah. He came in. He's like, there's no expectations of Toklo at that time. Yep. There are expectations now. And now that he got the striker role, he's not really fighting. Like, he knew he had to fight to get Ajimang out of there. Yeah. Goodwin, maybe he's sort of underestimated, or, he's just arriving. I got some time to show what I do. But I think Goodwin can still push Toklo, right?
Yeah.
I think that's great.
No, he's for sure pushing him now.
That was going to be my point, which is like, there's a difference in Iran Toklomati and Archie Goodwin as well, in terms of style as well. And I'm with you on the same thing where, for me, it's more this Wednesday, Archie gets an opportunity to put his stock up more and tell Dean, if he can score 1, 2, 3 goals against Charlotte Independence, no disrespect to them, right? But he can further cement himself as somebody hey, Dean, I'm here. Whether I'm coming off the bench, I'm scoring, or whether I'm starting matches, I'm scoring. This is a. You couldn't have asked for a better opportunity for Archie Goodwin for a start than this Wednesday, right? And so I agree with you. I think for me it's more of Toklomati is still my number 9, but he's going through a little bit of a rough patch, and having a guy like Archie kind of push him will kind of tell us who Iran Toklomati truly can be, you know? And so also talking about some changes in tactics as well. Talk to me about, and Caleb, you mentioned it a little bit, you know, we saw the changes in the half. You know, Brent Bronico came in, Luca De La Torre came in, Pep Biel was thrown to a right wing, and we really didn't see any improvement in this team.
Yeah, so I would love this game for one reason, and that I think it really helps solidify Zaha's ability, what he actually brings to the team. Even to this day, Zaha is disrespected by a lot of the fan base. There's still a lot of people who don't buy into Zaha, doesn't think he should be re-signed. But Zaha was a great lesson in a player masking bigger issues. Zaha has been so good for us that in the attack particularly, his ability to play make, find those passes, find those lanes, we are really dependent on that. And it really exposed the system that we have when he's even someone like Pep. Like, one thing I think Pep is, you know, he's a 10, but Pep's game is arriving late in the box, being clever in the box, having quick interchanges. What made Zaha and Pep and Pep even stand out more and improve Pep's production is Zaha and Pep both know and understand positioning, where they're going to be. Zaha could find those passes in that positioning of Pep. Players like Vargas, Abada, Smalls don't have that ability and that vision and that awareness.
It's like thinking faster on the pitch.
Yeah, they just don't understand. Like, Zaha understands that. He understands where those gaps are going to be based on the positioning of defenders, on the rest defense, where the gap's going to be at when we transition. Zaha sees all those things. He ultimately was the playmaker. He wears the number 10, and he is the ultimate playmaker on the team, even more than Pep. Pep is really more of a finisher. And we saw his playmaking ability when he set up Zaha. He can do that, but he's even better when he can get on the end of those chances to shoot. So this loss of Zaha in this match exposed things that we've talked about on the show for a while. I mean, we talked about the ability of us to create chances. We talked about just inconsistencies and progression. And this match, particularly, what bothered me about the substitutes and what, for me, is like, what was a huge red flag was we struggled to progress anything down the middle in the first half. What did we do? What was our solution to that? What was Dean's solution to that? Okay. You chuck it up to Toklo.
Yep.
All right. That's what we've been doing. That's kind of that's plan A.
It's either coming from Ream or Westwood.
That's plan A. Yeah. And one thing Nashville did really well was block those lanes that Ream was hitting Red Bulls against. Because Ream was really critical in building up in the game against Red Bull. But with that said, what was Dean's adjustment to this? Our most technical player, our best progressor of the ball, our best connector, was put out wide instead of, which is Pep Biel. If for those of you who can't tell who I'm talking about, he was put out wide, and because in the first half he played more of a second striker, he was really high up. It was very clear we needed more bodies in the midfield. So the Luca De La Torre maybe was sort of an idea of how to get more progression in there, but it's still very odd with the left wing positioning. Pep, in my opinion, Pep should have just been brought deeper. You can't get progression down the middle. Let's add an extra body in the midfield that can progress, that can beat a guy that's coming and pressing them, that can facilitate those passes, because Vargas and Bada are better players at running behind. You don't really want them getting the ball and building up. You want them making those runs behind, and who else better to find them than Pep? So my adjustment would have been, hey, let's pull Pep a little deeper, okay? Let's have Abada and Vargas spread the pitch a little more, give some operating room in the middle, let Westwood and Pep really dictate, with Gianni sitting home, right? And having them combine with each other. But our coach's adjustment was to put that player out on the wing, where it's difficult. Yeah, and yes, he floats in and stuff like that. I think that was a huge mistake.
It's worked for him in the past, though, you know, especially if we go back like the first season, when Pep Biel came in, you know, he started him off again more on that right wing. But to me, it was more.
And I think Pep was completely misunderutilized in those cases.
Well, there was games he played well.
No, for sure. Yeah. But in this particular situation, the game state, I don't think it called for that change. even
That's fair, yeah.
Barnacle I understood because he needed more runs from the midfield. I understand that. But it doesn't matter if you're making runs in the midfield if no one can find those passes in the midfield.
Right.
So I think that was a huge mistake. I was a little bit of a mind-boggling substitutes for me, and I was really upset about the second half changes. I was livid about Pep going to right wing.
Yeah. Brian, you even asked him directly a little bit, Dean Smith.
Yeah, about how just how these last two games against a rotated squad versus Miami and Nashville. And he said he wasn't concerned, because I asked him if there was a concern about how the team is just kind of fighting and playing in these big moments. And he said no. I mean, as of now, and I think for me there's got to be a concern, because Ashley Westwood has told us to our face multiple times now he thinks that this roster is better than Nashville, better than Miami. Dean Smith has stated what their goals are for the year. Zoran has said we're trying to be Seattle Sounders. A lot of smoke about what this team is supposed to be, and I think it's at some point there has to be a lot less talking and a lot more just results. Or when the results don't fall, I feel at some point there has to be a little bit more animation. I get that Dean wants to be pretty cool, calm, and collected, but at some point there has to be a switch, like you said, in performance, but also maybe in the presses a little bit. The demand for what needs to be seen on the field has to be higher. I will say, when it comes to the tactical change, I feel like one issue with a lot of this is I think a lot of these solutions were Luca De La Torre was supposed to be the solution for a lot of these problems, whether it's progression, and I think his progress, his learning curve has been maybe longer than I think a lot of us hoped to see, and I think that was ideally supposed to be maybe seen more in this game, and it still is not quite clicking there. It's getting better. I feel like he's definitely getting stronger, but there's just times when him and Ashley are occupying the same spaces a little bit too much and things like that, and they're just not quite finding their places on the field, or at least when Luca is out there. I think one reason that Dean made the changes here also is that he likes Ashley playing deep in that regista role. And I think he just likes the way him and Reem can distribute the ball long. It gives him that avenue. And the issue with Diani, for me, Diani is just nowhere near an 8. Just nowhere near an 8. And he keeps kind of playing him there because Westwood keeps playing deep and Diani ends up playing higher. And it puts him in a weak spot, which is why you got to take him. If you're going to keep playing Ashley that deep, right. Diani is just not in the right. Yeah. You're putting him in a spot where he's having to do too many things off the ball, and it's getting him out of position. If you see the first goal for Nashville, Qasim just pretty much takes Diani for a walk out of it because he just isn't prepared for that assignment. He moves out of the middle. Yazbek occupies that open space, and then the rest turns into a goal. And I feel like Diani having to deal with both going forward and the defensive assignment simultaneously is just not playing to his strength.
It was never his strength.
No.
Any of us watched Gianni when he first was signed. We were like, 100%, this is a defensive midfielder. This is a guy who's going to lock it down as a single midfielder, maybe in a pivot.
He's played center back in the past too, not in Charlotte, but
It's really nice too because he's a lefty, which adds a different dynamic, especially if you're playing a two-man pivot with him on the left side. It's really nice to have that luxury.
Yeah.
But Gianni, again, was pulled at the half, which I might sound like a Gianni homer, but I genuinely think the times and moments where he gets pulled off are not a fault of his, and that I think he's being misunderutilized. Again, it comes down to the coaching. Yeah. I think that even the fact that Luca has had a rough beginning, I don't think it's because Luca doesn't have the quality. I think it's because he's being completely misunderutilized. Yeah. I think for whatever reason we're in year 3 here, and it still feels like Dean is tinkering and trying to figure out how to best utilize his players that he's been with for the past 3 seasons. We're coming into the 3rd season here with him. So that's where, for me, that's a big red flag. And I personally, I want to preface this. We're a good team. Mm-hmm. We're still a good team.
Yeah.
Okay? We're still a good team.
I was just going to mention that. Having said all that, we're 5 points away from we're top of the East. So it's not doom and gloom, but but it is fair to be critical where the team is at.
No, I want to be realistic where the team is at. This is a good team.
That's a good way of putting it.
We are by no means an elite team, and I have seen no signs of us becoming an elite team this season. It's really early on, 7 games in. I'm curious to hear your guys' thoughts, but 7 games in, I've not seen anything that's shown me, hey, I see the vision. I see because there's going to be growing pains.
Yeah.
If you're gonna go to a new system, if you're gonna try to be more attacking, I understand that. Nashville had those growing pains for for a little bit, those few months. BJ came in, but I understand that completely. But what I'm seeing is I'm not even seeing even just like just a little something I can pull that and like to make me believe like yes, we can hit that next level. We just gotta. I don't know.
I would agree with that on you. The only sort of progression that I see this year is that I'm confident that there's games that Wilfred Zaha and Pep Biel can pull us out of. That they can pull a win or they can pull a point, and they've shown it twice already for me this season. And I'm like, that would be really good, but Zaha's not even going to be here for the second part of the season. So, and we'll get into that here in a little bit. And so anything you want to add to that about the progression? Because, yeah, I mean, that's the biggest criticism we're going to have, and it's a very fair point, right? But there's still enough time for me like to see what Dean can do with this team. But right now, we're not really, there's really no signs for us to say, okay, like I can grab onto this and say that, we're going to progress as a team and kind of get closer to the elite teams instead of staying stagnant.
Yeah, I think one other thing is just, I don't know if we have a guy on this roster who elevates everybody else around him. And you mentioned like Zaha and Biel. I feel like they definitely can elevate this team in terms of their own individual performances, and they get the results from time to time. But I don't know if any of these guys are actually like raising the game. Like you talk about, like one of the issues with Toklomati is just he's not getting the service from his teammates. He's like his teammates around him aren't helping him become better. And I think that is there a player on this team right now that's making everyone around them better?
How so? How would they
give me
make
an example in MLS that's not Messi.
I mean,
I would
just
just to get a reference.
Carlos Hill is a good example. I think João Paulo for Seattle Sounders in his heyday. I think a lot of guys in these top teams.
I think Westwood. I think when Westwood's on, it makes the whole team better. I think Zaha does make people around him better. Like, tell me this. Toffolo looked a better player playing with Zaha there than he did with Abada. Like that for me is a perfect example. Gianni, like that relationship, even Gianni's ability to combine. Zaha, he understands Gianni's limits. What does he do? Comes back, give me the ball, Gianni. Comes get it, receives it, goes up. Gianni can fill those gaps. Like Zaha understands the strengths and limits of the players around him, and I think Westwood also understands that. And for me,
I would also add that in terms of the collective, I think they all play a small role in that. Where like from a team perspective, like I think Toffolo put this the best way. They may not be the best team, but as a collective, as the small things that they do from the leadership standpoint and bringing on young players, I think that adds. Not necessarily a change for change with like a player that changes the game, but if collectively you've got a lot of leaders in there that try to move the team forward, that can get you out of games or that can make a team better than it actually is as well.
I'll say this too, like I don't think this is the reality of MLS. You're going to have gaps in your roster.
Yeah.
Like every single team. You don't have the luxury of being able to get every profile. You're not gonna have the luxury of having incredible depth at every position, too deep, competitive environment. That's just impossible with the roster rules. And every team has that gap. Every team has that one weakness. Even the elite teams, but their coaching or maybe certain players are so good that it covers some of those weaknesses. I believe with Zaha, let me make it very clear. With Zaha, I think this team is very capable. I really don't have too many issues with the roster, to be frank. I really think this capable of more. I've seen a Montreal side under Nancy absolutely out. For those who don't know, Montreal have not spent a single real dollar on a player since 2014.
Crazy.
Yeah. Nancy came into this disaster, got no signings of cash, came in and made playoffs with the team, was in top 5 with the team, with a roster primarily consisted of domestic players, Canadian Americans, and they were controlling and dictating games. You can't tell me that Montreal roster is better than this Charlotte FC roster right now with Zaha.
Yeah,
and even without Zaha, there's an argument there. For me, I think players is the wrong area that we're looking at right now. Anything else you want to add to that?
Well, I mean, they're going to have to look for some players, right? I mean, that's just going to be a part of it. So, I mean, I think there's definitely. I mean, Dean is the first part for sure. Like, I think him getting the system right and figuring out what the progression is first and foremost. Out with the players on the roster, I think there are definitely changes coming in the summer, whether they're absolutely needed or not. I think for this last game, I still would have liked to see more from Biel. Whether it was him put on the right wing or playing centrally, I think there was an opportunity in this game for him to step up to another level at home in a big game. Not saying that he's being moved or anything like that. I'm just saying, I think there was another level that we could have maybe seen from Biel in a big moment like this when Zaha's not out there. Can he take the reins? Because last year we were talking about he being the missing piece. And so I think there's a level that we need to see still from him within the roster themselves. And then, I think the other is Luca De La Torre. I think it really comes down to, can he get to the level that this team needs?
Absolutely. All right, one more thing we want to talk about, and then we'll move on to the Zaha piece, is Rodolf Aloko made his debut, different profile of winger, which I think is positive for the team. What did you make of his performance, or what can we expect from him, Brian?
I think we saw a solid debut. He went out there and
tank.
Yeah, I think he showed some of his quality in a short time frame, short window. I think there's still a lot more hype around him than anything else. He's definitely the shiny new toy right now in terms of just what we've seen from him at Crown Legacy. I think there's a lot of hype around a lot of the Crown Legacy guys, and it was kind of pressure on to see some of these guys break into the first team and make something happen. And Aloko, for me, is easily the first guy that needs to be seen more of.
Nice. Caleb?
Yeah, I'm excited for him. I think he does bring a more physical element to our wingers. Abada has struggled with the physical aspect of the MLS. He gets bodied off every ball. Kerwin, of course, I think can handle the physical aspect a little better, but then it comes a more limited aspect of his game. He's a little more one-dimensional. I think Aloko, what excites me about him is he's a little more he reminds me of Cambridge in that he's two-footed, and he can take you on out wide, or he can also cut inside. I think that aspect of it for me has the most potential.
Yeah.
I think Vargas and Abada and Smalls are all very easy. As a defender, I used to play fullback, not at a high level. I'm not saying I'm at these guys' level, but as a fullback, as a defender, you understand very quickly where your opponent likes to go, and I think Vargas make that very clear early on. And so guess what? You're forced them to go the opposite way the rest of the game, and they can't adapt to that, frankly. But they have their places in the squad. So that's what excites me about Aloko, and that's something that, again, with the coaching aspect is even someone like Smalls. I think we know what we're getting from him, right? I feel like he's 24 now,
23, I think.
23.
Yeah, right in that range.
He's not really. He's getting out of that sort of youngster phase. I would love to see how a guy like Nemfasha does. Right? Why is Nemfasha not the one coming in and making the sub here?
Yeah.
I'm not saying Nemfasha should be starting, and again, he won't be our savior. But those minutes that Smalls plays, why couldn't someone like Nemfasha be doing that? Who's another very two-dimensional player? He can take you wide. He can cross the ball in. He can cut onto his foot, smash it. But Aloko's great. I'm glad that the team acted on it sooner rather than later.
Yeah.
I'm glad that he signed to the first team because that's where he belongs. He was clearly not learning anything or improving or developing in MLS Next Pro.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. I would say the only thing I could add to that is that, it's good to have a guy like him that clearly, Brian said this a couple of episodes ago, that we're not learning anything from him in Crown Legacy. At least here, I'm not expecting him, like you said, to come be our savior, but I think that different profile of winger and a guy that can score goals, and also they spent a lot of money on him as well. So, he should be getting minutes. And so that's what I want to see from him this season, getting minutes and contributing to the team and seeing a different profile of winger in the Charlotte FC squad. So
I'll say that if he does come good and it's clear he's at the level, it also it alleviates a little pressure on the winger positions, right? We can start, maybe Vargas gets to move out, Abada. There's now we can afford to sell a winger at this point. So I think it also helps in terms of opening up the transfer market for us.
Yeah.
Absolutely. All right, let's talk about the big news that, Wilfried Zaha's wife kind of led the momentum for this, right? And so she posted yesterday on her Instagram, only a month and a bit left, Charlotte. I've enjoyed my time here. if we needed a better confirmation that Wilfried Zaha is done at Charlotte FC, there's no better one that you can get. And, you know, from conversations that I've had earlier today, too, it sounds like it's done as well. It's going to be tough to work something out from both parties. I mean, Zaha likes Charlotte. Zaha would want to stay in Charlotte, but where Charlotte is right now, they're not offering him what he truly wants, you know? And so those numbers I'm not sure on. But, you know, to me, it's very concerning in the aspect of, you know, like Zaha has shown me through this season that he can be a difference maker in this team, right? He did also last year. And I'm more concerned with what the replacement would look like because Charlotte, to me, doesn't have a good track record of bringing in quality DPs. That's just the reality. You know, we look at Wilfred Zaha has been a difference maker. Pep Biel's been a difference maker. But that deal only happened because Calvin Stein's deal fell through. You know, Swiderski was a serviceable DP. But then they've had a lot of misses, you know. And so we look at currently Abada hasn't been a great DP. Kamil Yazviak, Enzo Copetti. So it's really concerning, like seeing that they're not able to work something out, at least till the end of the season for Wilfried Zaha. Brian?
Yeah, and I think what also makes this difficult is we just saw Abada get subbed out in 45 minutes and not be able to take the reins at all. He's now on his contract year. He's going to be essentially, I mean, other teams can negotiate with Abada by the summer. There's no chance of them really getting a transfer fee for him probably after this. And so this summer becomes a really weird situation where they're likely kind of stuck with Abada because the chance of them getting a move of any kind that's favorable to the club at all is pretty much not, it's just not going to be possible based on his contract situation. And then Zaha being gone. So this summer becomes tricky. I think also part of the reason why negotiations fell through for Zaha, though, is also because it's a World Cup year, and I'd imagine the club, I mean, I don't know exactly how everything's going to move around, but already based on players that are committing to no longer resign, I think Mo Salah is a good recent example, Bernardo Silva. There's just a lot of moving pieces that are going to be taking place this summer. You can already see the pieces starting to align. We don't know where all these players are going, but that means other players are then going to be shifting out. So I think it's setting up for just a lot of movement this summer, typical for a World Cup year. And it seems to me like this is also playing a role as to why this is happening. I imagine Charlotte is trying to find a way to open a DP spot to be able to be a part of that movement. If they re-sign Zaha, Abada is probably not going to be able to get moved. They're not going to be able to be a part of what could possibly be the biggest transfer window. And the first one MLS is actually aligned on for the next 4 years.
Caleb?
Yeah, for me, it seems like a mismanagement. It seems like a real catastrophic mismanagement of the Zaha situation because, you know, I had my concerns already coming into December postseason. If you're going to re-sign Zaha, that's probably when you do it. Yeah. Is right when the season ends, offer him a contract, get that locked in for the rest of the season, you're good. It's, okay, we're good on the left wing. But the fact that, we were going into even a few months after preseason, and they were talking about, we haven't even started conversations yet. I was like, this ain't happening.
And then he said he needs to see goals and assists.
Yeah, and then he needs to see goals and assists. I'm like, but if you can get on Zaha for anything in terms of negotiating contract, you can't get on him for goals and assists because he did. He did produce the year before.
He's still doing it.
And he's still doing it.
The last two games he played, he scored.
Still doing it. And at that point too, I think he was the only one who had an assist for us at that time because this was early in the season. Yeah. So the fact that it looks like there wasn't ever any real intention of re-signing Zaha, you keep an Abada as well, and don't open up that room for a big sign like, hey, we're anticipating Zaha to get out here. Let's make room so we can immediately go for our next target, work on that target, talk to them over the winter season, right? Come into the season, hey, Zaha, we know you're gone. You know, all good, appreciate the service. Let's go ahead and bring in this other DP, right? Get him into the season, get him in March, you know, maybe now, you know, at the end of the window for the first primary one for MLS. So it seems like a really bad mismanagement because, as you said, the value of Abada starts crashing, and there was reported interest in him last season.
Yeah, and then they said they needed to keep him because they were trying to push for the playoffs, but then they didn't, they used him like 8 minutes in the playoffs or something like that, or the one start. And then...
Right. So, I mean, for me, just looking at the optics of it, I'm looking at that as, hey, probably made a lot more sense to sell Abada. Okay, open up a DP slot. It's okay if we don't fill it in January. Maybe you get some backlash from fans, but hey, maybe come later on in the summer, post World Cup, you're good. You have a good left winger locked in Zaha, or if you don't bring him back, okay, hey, we at least got an open spot we can fill in the January months, in the summer windows, and gives us the opportunity. But now we're kind of stuck in the situation, and we're gonna go up until what? When is the season? We start July.
Yeah,
July 19th. Yeah.
July 19th.
Or no, 22nd.
We're gonna come in July 22nd, and maybe we'll have a new winger at that point. But then we have to get the visa, and I honestly I say, hey, I'm glad we locked in Aloko sooner rather than later, but I wonder how much the urgency came because we're kind of screwed at winger right now.
Yeah. It's a lot. It's like we talked about, again, cohesion, team management, and we're going to go into a summer where we're losing Zaha unless something drastic happens, right? And also, Abada isn't, like you mentioned, like he's in a great position. Yeah. 6 months left in his contract. I don't have to get pushed out. They play me every once in a while. I'll wait out another 6 months. I'm getting paid really well here. There's no other true market.
And he's still
for
young
me.
enough, right?
Yes.
To make that move.
And so now we're depending on Charlotte's front office to deliver a DP of the caliber of at least what Zaha was producing, if not more, in halfway through the season, right? This person's not even going to get a preseason with Charlotte, right? And so how does that change expectations for this season? What should we even be expecting if one of our key players, a decision-making player, is going to be gone at Charlotte FC?
I will say, like, the one argument that I think the club and the front office would have, given this season compared to others, is that in the World Cup break, they're coming back with 19 games left, which is far more than you usually get after the window.
That's true. It's
Now,
actually halfway.
It's more than
the
even,
summer is not halfway
Yeah.
in MLS generally. You're actually 2/3 of the season that way.
Yeah, and so the one argument you have is, hey, we're not bringing in a guy for 8 or 9 games. We're bringing him in for a good portion of the season. They can get up. If we get like a star caliber guy, they have enough time to kind of get momentum going and go into the final stretch in form.
Yeah.
That's the argument they have.
But this
now that doesn't make it
Yeah.
the right. That doesn't make it's a gamble.
Yep.
It's a big gamble because you go into the season saying
It is.
we're winning now. We've got a veteran team, a lot of guys plus 30.
Yeah.
Like they have to win this season because the roster's going to start changing after these guys go out of contract. And there's going to be a decent amount of change over the end of this year and then the following season because Ream's going to be aging out, right? These things are going to happen.
Absolutely.
And so you by going from win now to potentially having to replace 2 to 3 guys that are pretty key to your team in the summer, that doesn't feel like win now. Usually you're adding, like, I think San Jose all of a sudden is now in win now mode because they're winning with no DPs. They're on 18 points and they have Timo Werner as their only DP who's on the bench. So like that's the situation you want to be in, right? Going into the summer, have 2 DP spots open and you're winning games. And so when you have no DP spots open or your key guys are being moved off, and then having to try to replace them quick and still kind of patch things up. It's a little bit trickier when you're trying to explain that, like, hey, we're pushing for the top of the table. We're pushing to win trophies. And I think that's where the misalignment really is for me.
That's a contradiction.
Yeah.
Is you're saying something, but your actions aren't following it.
Yeah.
Yep. Just to kind of give my last thoughts on this, if Zaha leaves, right, this summer, when Zaha leaves, it's not, I don't want to see we're linked with Harvey Elliott. It could happen. We're linked with these. No. You have to get them over the line. Whoever that DP is that you get over the line, it has to come in, right? Whether it's a big star that can make an impact or it's a player that, is prime age that can do numbers in MLS. It has to go through. There's no more waiting, they tried, but it didn't happen, right? Because you're letting a key DP in this team go, and so that has to be replaced immediately. And 2, that player better come in and produce right off the get-go if they want to actually be able to do something this season.
One last point. I know we're tough on time. That's where I'm looking at Nashville and Espinoza, and I'm like, really, like,
Yeah.
We have that ready winger, and right, we've had it. It's right there. If you knew this was happening, why in the world are we not making a move for Espinoza?
Yeah.
Let alone let it go to our rival.
Or Santi Moreno now. I mean, he's not a DP, but Santi Moreno just came back to MLS too. He had, 15-plus goal contributions multiple years in
Yeah,
Portland?
it's just mind-boggling stuff.
All right, it's shaping up to be a very interesting summer for Charlotte FC for sure. So we'll keep watching. Obviously, Zaha will be back. He'll still have a couple games for us, and so we'll see what happens. And maybe there's a complete 180, and they whoever they've got targeted for this summer pulls out last minute, because we've seen that happen multiple times in Charlotte FC's career. But anyways, moving on to the last talking points. Let's talk a little bit about, the Open Cup, and we'll get into a little bit the NYCFC game. Obviously, for Charlotte people, first ever Charlotte derby, Charlotte Independence versus Charlotte FC. We'll see a heavily rotated team we're expecting a heavily rotated team against Charlotte Independence. Brian, you touched on it a little bit. This gives it a good opportunity for some players to kind of make a statement.
Yeah, for sure. I think this is a Charlotte FC sicko game right here. You get to see the complete depth of this roster come to fruition, and then a ton of hype afterwards, because I expect good performances from some of these guys, especially the ones that are in form like Goodwin, to build up hype going into the MLS stretch, and fans to be like, hey, we want to see these guys in the starting lineup, especially for the guys that aren't producing. I especially expect Goodwin to be starting in this one. Aloko, I wouldn't be surprised if he's starting out of the gate in this one. I think he's a prime candidate. I think Kessler is another one that I think a lot of people should be eyeing. I think he should get the start because he just hasn't gotten enough reps. So it's like, how do you get him on the field? I think this is a perfect situation to see him for a full 90. So I think there's just a lot of guys that you should be excited about seeing getting some serious reps.
Schnag will probably start, and he's done well, So I mean, even this rotated squad should be good enough to win this game. Now if they lose this game, alarms go up immediately, because it should be a game they win in. And like you said, this is a good game for these players. It's kind of like Aloko and Nympha at Crown Legacy, you see them and you see that they're miles above it. Some of these players get that opportunity here, and I touched on it earlier. Archie, this is a great opportunity for you to score 1 or 2 goals and continue to put that pressure on a guy like Idan Toklomati. Anyone you're excited to maybe potentially see that we haven't mentioned?
I think the guys we mentioned, Kessler, I would love to see Kessler starting to get some reps in. Yeah. I think Kessler is a good candidate for a Ream successor. It's a very real opportunity that he becomes a starting center back in the next few years, the next sort of reign of that. Aloko, of course, I'm really excited to see what he does, because I think Independence is still probably a step above MLS Next Pro.
Yeah, absolutely.
You're playing against a little more seasoned pros. Yeah, some youth.
And they've been doing well this season as well.
Yeah, playing against grown men. Some youth in there for sure. I'm really excited to see how the team does, but don't get complacent. These are dangerous games. You come in feeling hot, over confident, and these teams play hard. This is everything for Independence. This will be everything for them.
And we may see Tyler Miller as well this week.
True.
And he actually had a good game for Legacy a few weeks back. He had 7 or 8 saves. He kept a clean sheet and looked like he looked sound there, just getting reps, which is not easy to do when you're a goalkeeper, not getting a lot of reps. So coming right in and making the saves you need to. I also point out, I think this is a big game for, I'd imagine Luca De La Torre probably gets the start as another guy. I feel like he should be getting a 60-minute run out at least, and just show hey, I can lead this group, because I'd imagine Biel doesn't even dress, and so I'd imagine that means Luca is going to be one of the key guys in the middle progressing the ball, and so can he just show that he can kind of lead this group from the middle?
Yeah, and I think from a confidence and rep perspective 100%. Is what some of these players need that. You need Luca De La Torre to go in there, like you said, dictate command.
Yes.
And have a phenomenal performance, and I think having that rep under his belt, he's okay, I can build off of this. Yep. So, I mean, it's going to be at the Matthews Sportsplex as well. And so we actually have an opportunity. We'll be doing a live podcast the match. So we'll be out there, and so hopefully we get an opportunity to talk to some potential players that may not play that match, and so we're working that out with Charlotte FC right now, and hopefully we can make that happen. So this Wednesday we'll be going live at 5:30 at the at the Sportsplex. So be on the lookout for that. We're excited about that, and so with that said, let's move on and talk a little bit about NYCFC, who eliminated a Charlotte FC. Caleb's excited about it. They left it all home game against NYCFC. We previewed the show. Brian said there's no way they lose the second game at home. I was like, we did the hard part, was pull a result. Like, I wasn't able to be at that game, but I was like, okay, when I come back, let me figure out. So I already had set for, that next round, and they didn't do it. So this is a perfect opportunity. Brian, talk to me about this current NYCFC squad who's 4th in the league. And, is it a revenge game for Charlotte FC?
Yeah, I mean, you got to consider it a revenge game. They knocked you out of the playoffs last year, and they completely altered, I'd say, the projection of the end of that season, getting home field advantage and everything like that. And I think also you got to find a way to lock down Nico Fernandez, because he played a huge role in knocking you out in Game 3, and he's hit the ground running, playing out of position. He's been playing striker for them because Alonso Martinez is still recovering from his injury. And Nico Fernandez looks like a real quality DP in this league, and he showed that against Charlotte and has continued that momentum this season. So I think it's about how do you lock him down, because he's very skilled on the ball and in different ways, being able to make runs, even though he's playing out of position. And I think that's really the key. Him, and then Morales, which is crazy. He's I think he's tied with BL on goal contributions. He's got like 5 or 6 assists already, which is crazy at 39 to still be getting that kind of run out.
That is insane.
Yeah. So I think, obviously those are the two key guys in the front. So it's just how do you kind of slow those guys down and then provide your own volume on the road.
Nice. Caleb, anything you want to add to that?
Yeah, I think they remind me a lot of Nashville in terms of their coach has come in. He's also a new coach. Last year was his first season. Quickly imprinted his game, his model on the team, and they're a balanced squad. I look at their starting 11. These are all like good starting caliber MLS players. Yep. Really no gaps. I mean, for me, they have Keaton Parks, who he was injured, wasn't he, on the playoff that we did? Yeah, Keaton Parks. We didn't even play against Keaton, who I think is an excellent midfielder in this league. One of the best two-way players in the league, period. And even O'Neal was locked down against us. So I just look at the squad. They have the individual quality to get goals from nothing, to shoot a banger outside the box. They also have these like hard hustling players that are going to cover ground and make things difficult and not fun for Pep and Zaha. And you best believe they're going to be trucking Zaha all game. Like they're going to be all over him again. They really shut him down. They had a very clear game plan. He was double or triple teamed almost every time. So this game, I'm looking at who was going to step up and take advantage of that extra space. Like Pep might have that extra space. Our right winger might have the extra space. It's gonna be a difficult game, man. It's always a difficult game against New York City, especially when we're on the road against them.
Is he gonna get a yellow this weekend, you think, Wilfred Zaha?
Yeah, this way, because the MLS refs are just handing those things out like lollipops to Zaha, man. Zaha comes out, you just automatically given he's gonna get a yellow. It's ridiculous. The refs are
nice. Yeah, I mean, I also think this is a great opportunity to. Hey, some of these doubts that we have, this is a perfect opportunity for you to say, you shouldn't be doubting at all. We're going to go away, a tough team, a top 4 team currently in MLS, and get a result there, Now we kind of need it, because we lost this last home game against Nashville. And so, I'm hoping Charlotte play up to it, right? Obviously, having Wilfred Zaha back is going to be a big boost. And so... You wanted to add something?
I just wanted to add, I think this is also a really fascinating coaching battle, because I personally believe that Janssen, that's his name, right? For New York, I think he completely outcoached Dean in the playoffs. I think that made the ultimate difference is how, as both sides were coached, I think there's some mistakes done on Dean's side. So it's going to be fascinating for me to see how Dean approaches this game. If we see some adjustments, some tactical adjustments, and if he learned anything from those. I think if we come into this match and like we're balling out, we're having some control, getting good chances, that shows me like, okay, Dean has learned from that experience. He's capable of seeing like, okay, this is where we messed up, this is where the gaps are at, how can we exploit that and learn from our last experiences. If we come out and it's the same thing again, I'll be back on the show.
Caleb's like, hey, I need to be back on. Give us a little score prediction for this game, Brian.
I think 1-1. I think they get a draw. I think that's a good result. I mean, I think on the road you get a draw against New York. There's other winnable road games coming up. That's where and I think you're satisfied with the 1-1.
Who scores it?
I'm gonna give it to Zaha. I think he comes right back out there and slams one.
Nice. Caleb?
I'm going to go 1-1 too. I think it's going to be a gritty game. I think it's going to be a grind of a game.
Nice.
I don't anticipate much space.
There's not much space.
Yeah, I know. That's what I'm
On
saying.
a baseball field?
That's what I'm saying. We didn't even talk about freeze.
Yeah.
You get past all that, and you still got freeze to deal with in goal. So that's a huge. I think 1-1's a huge result. I think that's a great result. I'll be very happy with that.
Awesome, yeah. I'm a romantic at heart, so I'm going to say it's going to be a tough game. It's going to look like a 0-0, and Wilfred Zaha will pull out some magic, score a goal. His shirt will say, "Why always me?" You know,
And he gets a second yellow, and he gets a second yellow, and gets a red for the next game too.
I'm gonna be positive. I'm gonna say a 1-0 win for Charlotte FC.
Well, that worked out well for them last time. So.
Oh man. With that said, Caleb, where can people find you at?
Just find me on Twitter. It's Caleb Adams.
Nice. And Brian?
Find me on X at Bam Mauer Media, written content, topbin90.com.
Yep. Jorge Gonzalez. We're Top Bin 90 on all the socials. Remember, second live this Wednesday outside of the Sportsplex. It should be a good one. We will see you guys over and out.